how to exhibit art. Now, you may feel that you're at the stage where you're not quite ready to show other people your artwork, but I'm going to show you 8 ways which you could very, very gently just start getting your artwork seen by other people, because after all, art's meant for sharing, isn't it? If we haven't met before, my name is Michelle, and on this channel you'll find art tips and techniques, business and social media training for artists. So please do consider subscribing, and if you hit the little bell notification, you'll get notified every time I have a new video for you. So in this video I'm going to show you 8 different places where you can start very, very gently getting your foot on the ladder of exhibiting your artwork and starting to get used to showing it to other people, and you really will find it very rewarding, I promise. So I said we're going to start small with baby steps, and we really are. So the first thing I want you to think about is your own home, or the studio, or the room, or the area where you work. Do you show your artwork to people when they come around? Is there somewhere special in your house that you've got your work on display? Perhaps it's on display right through the house. Perhaps you keep it in a drawer and never show anybody. So one of the first things that I did, actually I just moved house, so my house was in a bit of a mess. I wasn't too worried about the walls. So one of the first things I did when I went back to painting was I started with one wall, and I just pinned all the artwork I did all over that wall. And not only did other people get used to the idea that I created artwork, and you know, they liked it, they didn't like it, they commented on it. It was certainly something to talk about. Not all of it was very good at the time. But for me as well, it's really, really important that you look at your work regularly, because otherwise you can't see how you're improving. So I want you to think about creating a display in your own home. Taking it further forward from there, one thing that we have in England, I don't know about other countries, one thing we have over here is open studios. So almost every county, almost every area in England, most towns have an open studio event once a year, usually in the summer. So it works exactly the same as open gardens. So you join a particular society that arranges it, and people wander around from house to house, and they come and look at your artwork, and they chat, and maybe they buy. Some people do this for profit, some people do it for fun, and some people do it to raise money for charity. So if you want to think about exhibiting in your own home, think about, you know, people that are just popping around, but also consider the idea, if your house is a, you know, suitable layout, of doing an open studios event. The second place you might want to consider exhibiting your work is at a craft fair. So craft fairs are great. You just you pay a price for a stand, a table, a screen, whatever it is, a plinth, and you have your work there, and you actually stand behind the counter or the table, and you chat to customers as they come along, and some of them buy. So it's a lot less pressure than an art gallery, isn't it? Because people are selling all sorts of things. You can get beautiful handmade paintings, but you can also get somebody selling, you know, soaps or candles nearby you. So it's a really, I found craft fairs actually a really, really good way to network. They can be tricky to make a decent profit at. And let me know in the comments if you'd like more information on craft fairs, because if you're going to do craft fairs properly, there's a few things that you need to know about them. But just to dip your toe in the water, and really just to meet other people, other creative people, and to get some feedback about what the public thinks about your artwork, craft fairs are a great place to start too. A third place to consider exhibiting your artwork would be open exhibitions. Now, we call them open exhibitions in England, but I think in the States they probably call them juried shows. Basically, these are art exhibitions that have a bit of a sort of a competitive element. So in other words, they're selected exhibitions, juried exhibitions. You have a panel of people that are selecting the artwork to see whether they want it in their art show. It normally only costs a few pounds or a few dollars to enter your artwork, sometimes even free to enter. And there's quite a good chance that you'll get selected. Now, it's there are these big, huge international and national competitions, sometimes run by newspapers. Those are much, much harder to get into. Those huge national exhibitions, they're really, really hard to get into. Now, with a little local open exhibition or juried exhibition, you might find that 2 out of 3 people are selected, because they just don't have as many entries, and it's really a feeling of validation if you get your artwork selected. Now, if you don't get selected, it's absolutely nothing to worry about. It's completely normal, but I would consider giving it a go. So just look out for little local open or juried or selected exhibitions, and you know, enter a couple of pieces of artwork. You really have nothing to lose. So idea number 4 is actually to show your work on the internet. So there are lots of places online you can put work. You can put work on Pinterest, you can put work on Instagram or Twitter or on online shops, but I recommend you start with Facebook groups. They're a really safe space for showing your artwork. Now there are three types of group. There are open public groups where anybody can see what people post. There are secret groups that you only know exist if you are a member of them, if you've been invited to join them. But then the most common one for the art groups would be closed groups. So when you look at an art group to join, if you are a little bit worried about anybody and everybody, you know, perhaps your friends and your relatives and your Uncle Norris, who always throws loads of abuse at your painting skills, if you're worried about those people seeing your work, then you don't have to, because you just join a closed Facebook group. So if you pick your Facebook group, if you look at the front page of it, it'll tell you that it's a closed group, and you won't be able to see any of the posts until you're in that group. So all you do is click join. I have a Facebook group if you're interested in joining that, so it's called In the Studio with Michele Webber. There are also, I'm in about 20 art groups. They're absolutely fantastic. So I'm in one, for instance, called Flower Paintings, and that's not for a specific medium, that's for any paintings of flowers to be shared. There are others that have specific mediums, specific styles. There are Facebook groups for people that like to paint in a hugely stylized, realistic, photographic manner. And there are art groups for people who like to paint loose and splashy. There are art groups for people that just want to paint pen and ink or just paint manga cartoons. You know, whatever you have an interest in, there is a Facebook group for you. And as I said, it's a really lovely safe space because all of these groups have admins. So what happens is if somebody posts something offensive, or if you put a piece of artwork up and somebody is unnecessarily unkind about it, then the admins will either have a word with them or they'll just kick them out the group. So if you're looking to share your artwork and maybe get some constructive criticism but in a kind manner, then Facebook groups are a great place for you. If you don't enjoy being in the group, just leave the group and join a different one. So for idea number 5, we're back in the real world with cafes and coffee shops. Now, a lot of independent coffee shops, and certainly in England, will exhibit artwork on the walls, and you even have something called art cafes, which are kind of a combination of both. So what you do is you put your work on the walls, and if it sells, you pay the owner a small percentage. Now, some of these places, they rotate artwork. Some of them have artwork only by one artist. Now, a good trick actually is if a new venue opens up in your town, why not approach them? You know, they may not have even thought of displaying artwork, so why not approach them and ask if you could put your work on the walls? As I said, other places swap the work around. Maybe once a month a different artist comes in. So it's always worth looking at cafes and coffee shops. It's a lovely place to display your artwork, and you may even sell a piece now and again. At number 6, we have church and charity exhibitions. So how lovely if you can sell a little painting or a little piece of artwork and it can raise money for charity. So sometimes you have little craft fairs, little art exhibitions, and they're all run by local people and local charities. So they can be quite hard to find out about. You often find they have no internet presence whatsoever, and that's sometimes because they're run by older people and they just don't use computers very much. So the best way to find out about these is just to look out for them in your community. Go along and visit and speak to the ladies or gentlemen behind the sales desk and ask how you might get involved in future exhibitions. So that's a really lovely way of raising money for your local community or your local church. And to be honest, you don't even have to be religious. Here in the UK, we're probably 50% atheist, and even those people who are religious, it tends to be not a very big thing in society. There's not a huge amount of church going, shall we say. But that doesn't mean that you can't raise money to help the fabric of your local church. I'm very happy to sell a painting and raise money to repair the roof of my local church, just because it's a really useful building in the community and it's a beautiful thing to preserve as well. And then churches are used for all other sort of local events, local community organisations, and you also get community centres used for this purpose too. So the artwork tends to be, they tend to be mostly amateurs that enter these exhibitions. You get a few local professionals go in as well. There's not usually any kind of, it's not like an open exhibition where you have to pass a jury, has no competition about it. As long as they've got room for you, they'll accept you in and they'll be very grateful to see your artwork there. And if it sells, you're going to raise a little bit of money to help other people or other animals or other causes too. My 7th idea for you is local businesses. So have you ever thought about displaying your artwork at a local business? Now, I'm not just talking about cafes here, but there are all sorts of places. Some of them formally display artwork and some of them it's just a little arrangement you might have with the owner. So we have artwork displays. I mean, my first solo exhibition was in a local theatre. Often theatres in this country display artwork, but there are all sorts of other places as well. At the moment I have my work in the reception area of a local physiotherapy centre, and I also have my artwork in a friend's shop about 20 minutes drive away, and he's a very professional furniture restorer. Now the arrangement that we have is just that my work sits on the walls with a little price tag on, and if people buy the artwork, then I give him a little bit of commission. So you would probably expect to pay, certainly in England, you expect to pay about 20 or 30% commission, but you may find, some local business owners, they just want their walls to look pretty and they love supporting local artists. So they may not even take any commission, and it's a win-win situation. You won't get a huge amount of sales there, but it's a good place to display your art. You can make a local shop look more interesting, and to be honest, it's really, really good storage. Now, for me, I've got so many different business interests. If I have to keep moving artwork around, it's really, really time consuming. So I can put my artwork in these local businesses. It's not like driving to some little exhibition that's, an hour's drive away and the exhibition's only open for 2 days and then I've got to pick my artwork up again. If I put it in a local business, then I can leave it there for 2 or 3 months, and then every now and again, I'll just go in, I'll arrange with the owner to go in and just refresh the artwork. I'll take some of the paintings out and put some new paintings in. So it's a really, really beneficial arrangement for everybody concerned, and it's a good place to start exhibiting your artwork. For number 8, I've saved the best till last. So this is actually the place I'd consider starting if I were you, and that's with local art societies. So art societies vary hugely. So you get tiny, tiny art societies where they're grateful for any members, and you can go in and you can, you might have all sorts of activities in the society, but one of the main activities is that probably 2 or 3 times a year you will exhibit with the other members. Now this means that you have a bit of clout. This can get you in much better and bigger exhibitions than you would otherwise get in at the start of your exhibiting career, shall we say. So it really can be a step up for you. It's also incredibly good experience for exhibiting and finding out how things are done, and also for running exhibitions. I now run exhibitions myself, but I learned how to do that by participating in art society exhibitions. Now some of the bigger art societies, and there's always an annual fee to pay, but some of the bigger art societies are actually harder to get into, and they have selection processes. Now big art societies tend to run open exhibitions once a year. So we talked about that earlier on. An open exhibition would be open to any members, not just society members. So once a year they'll have what they call their open exhibition, and from that they may select new members. You may get an invitation to join the society, or if it's a really prestigious society, there may be certain rules. You may have to have 3 paintings selected 4 years in a row. It can be really hard to get into some art societies. Now other art societies have what they call sort of a lesser tier of membership. So if it's really hard for you to get into that art society, you can often have an associate membership or a friendship membership, which is open to anybody. So you can get some of the benefits that full members get without having to go through the selection process. But you'll find for smaller art societies there won't even be a selections process. So do have a look and see what's around in your area. And what happens then is all the members of the society work together. There may be trips to museums and trips to art exhibitions, to big art exhibitions. You may have tutors come in once a month and give you a little talk or a demonstration. They may arrange workshops for you. There may be get-togethers or maybe outdoor painting trips with other members. And as I said, exhibiting is a big part of art society life. So you'll be expected to do a little bit of helping at the art exhibitions. You might help to set up. You might take on some treasury work, helping with the numbers. You might sit on the sales desk, and they'll probably ask you to steward the exhibition for a few hours. So if you take part in a week-long exhibition, you'll probably be expected to steward 1 afternoon or 1 morning. But I can't tell you how useful joining an art society will be for you. So start small with your art societies, and as you get more experienced and as your work gets better and you grow in confidence, you can join bigger and better art societies and keep exhibiting your artwork. Do let me know in the comments if you have exhibited your artwork previously, or if you'd like to do so in the future. Now you may be wondering as well which subjects and which mediums of artwork sell. So I've got a really helpful video for you about that subject, and you can watch that one right now. Please don't forget to subscribe.